Hi everyone, I'm David Reeder, and we are off deck. Just a few days to go before U.S. Nationals start in Indianapolis. On our last episode, we chatted about what to expect in the women's events at Nationals. Today we will talk the men's. John Lone back with us. John, again, thanks for coming on. Let's do this.
Sounds good, David.
So Michael Phelps is retired, Ryan Lochte suspended, so the only man at Nationals with a world record is Ryan Murphy. He was 51.85 in the 100 back last summer in Rio, last event of the meet, leading off the medley relay. Did not have the sharpest college season, and some guys are putting up some fast times in the backstroke events. What do you expect to see from Murphy this week?
I think we're going to see Ryan Murphy, the Olympic champion, pretty much establish himself as the man to beat for the World Championships. I don't think that necessarily means he has to go out and produce the #1 time in the world in each of his events, but I think what he's going to do is win decisively in each, and that will put enough of the fear factor, or for lack of a better term, into the competition. He obviously fulfilled all of that potential that he had since he was a young teenager last summer in Rio, and now he's just going to continue to build on it. And I don't think we may see just him qualifying for Worlds in the 100 back or 200 back. He's probably got a shot to maybe mix into a relay spot, if everything falls correctly.
Yeah, that's something I think we both thought of a little bit. The 200 free isn't going to work for him just because it's the same day as I think the 100 back.
But I think 100 freestyle, maybe he could. He's already been a 49, so
yeah,
it's doable.
It's not impossible at all. And in fact, that was kind of where I was going to go next. The men's sprints, because there's drama in those events, not quite a Ryan Murphy in those. There is a gold medalist in Nathan Adrian in the 100 free, and Anthony Irvin in the 50 free, and then you've got Caleb Dressel and what he's done in the college season. And like I said, a lot of depth. So what are you thinking we're going to see from the sprints?
I think this is where Caleb Dressel may take the mantle of American sprinting, and that's not a knock on Anthony Irvin or on Nathan Adrian. It's the fact that Dressel has gradually progressed. Was a key, obviously, on that relay last year in Rio. Had a solid, made the final in the 100 freestyle, which was terrific. Another great college season, and is just getting better and better. And so maybe this is his time to win one, if not both, of those sprints, and say, okay, I'm the face of American sprinting right now.
It was interesting not seeing him make the 50 last year, just because that came right after the 100, and he'd done so well in the 100. But the Olympic trials is also a very emotional meet. He was very emotional after the 100 we saw. So maybe this is, more experience, has a chance to really get a shot in at least both events. And in that 100 free, I'm just interested to see what kind of times we're going to go, because Dressel I think he was 47.9 a couple times in Rio. It's not going to take that much faster, I would think, to be in contention for the world title. Not that much.
Yeah, probably 47 mid, just because of how the sport is going. But yeah, maybe it will be 47.7, somewhere in there. He definitely has a chance to. I mean, for anybody to think he's not a factor for a global title in either of the sprints that's crazy. He is such a talented individual, and like you said, with the experience that he's gained, and that the intensity of that NCAA meet, while completely different than an international meet in long course, and the mental drain that the NCAA meet puts on the athletes is, that's something that can be valuable that he can carry forward.
It'll be interesting to see for sure. He's got the best start in the world and among the best, pretty much the best turns of any sprinter out there. So the men's relays are interesting. The 800 free relay, before the 2015 Worlds, the U.S. had won that event for more than a decade straight. Ryan Lochte was on every single one of those relays, not this time. The 400 free relay, which could be led by Dressel and Adrian and plenty of other faces, the Ryan Helds of the world we saw in Rio, that looks like it has a really strong course. So for the first time in a while, I think the 400 free relay is stronger than the 800.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Somebody like a Michael Chadwick too could give that 400 freestyle a boost. And there are some questions with that 800 free relay. Where's Townley Haas going to be in terms of his performance? I mean, he's a ton of ability, but we haven't seen a ton from the Texas guys. It doesn't mean they're not going to do anything. Anybody who knows the sport, they'll probably be right there. And Conger in the 800, as part of that 800 free relay, Clark Smith. So there are some guys, but there's not the hammer that used to be there on that 800 free relay where you had the Lochte or Phelps to just blow it open. Or at least to lean back on and have that comfort in the back of the mind. He's there.
And certainly, I don't think you can count on Connor Dwyer to be that. He swum the 200 one time since the Olympics, and that was earlier this month. So, yeah, some uncertainty to see where that one stacks up, and some concern, I'd say, with Great Britain swimming as well, as they have been. James Guy at the forefront of that. So another swimmer who taking steps forward towards establishing his place in the world hierarchy, Chase Kalish. He was a 400 IMer. He had one of the great swims of the Olympics, I thought, when he was almost caught Kazke Aguino to win gold in the 400 IM. And he's going to be a lot more than a 400 IMer this time around. I think you agree with me on that one, John.
Yeah, and I think we're about to see Chase Kalish and Ryan Murphy become the forces of USA swimming, much like Ryan Lochte and Michael Phelps had been for more than a decade. The fun thing with Kalish is that we've seen such a good preparation, a prep season from him after the college season. Such good performances in the Pro Series, where he was 200 breaststrokes were solid. His 200 fly has come along. It's almost like he's just become a man now in terms of handling a bigger workload and putting it all together. That 400 IM. World Championship schedule-wise has always been where the last two cycles of World Championships, 13 and 15, he's had to wait for that very last day to race it all. And if he can get onto the Team USA in a 200 fly or even a 200 breast or both, that gives him he can shake out the cobwebs for his best event a little earlier, get some swims under his belt, because 8 days, that's a tough waiting game to play, but that also speaks to his mental toughness to keep focused and get things done when he needed to, because he's walked away with 2 medals at the past 2 world champs.
Yeah. I wrote the other day, I don't think he's going to have to do something crazy at Nationals in the 400 IM to be one of the favorites in that event at Worlds. And then the 200 IM, favorite at Nationals, shot at a medal at Worlds. 200 fly, one of the favorites. 200 breast, I don't know, just because that's such a deep event, but you're right, we're going to see a lot of him. He'll be talked about a lot this week.
Yeah, and I just talked 200 fly, 200 breast, without the 200 IM, and that's the event, obviously, that the biggest gap is left by Phelps and Lochte, where there's an opportunity for him to step in. But for him to already have been 409 this year in that 400 IM, that's the event where he can be. There's plenty of margin of error.
He can be good in a lot of events. In that one, he's already great. The breaststrokes, some loaded events. Let's start with the 200, just because that, in my opinion, was the best race of Olympic trials. Kevin Korda's out fast. Will Lacone was right there the whole way, and Josh Pernot with one of the great last 50s you'll see. Those three and some other guys. Nick Fink's going to be there. Kalish is going to be there. Andrew Wilson's from the 200 breast. So can Cody Miller. So I think this race could top what we saw in Omaha if all goes according to what it could go.
Right. And then where is Reese Whitley, the guy who's been pegged as the future American star in this event? There's a ton of excitement surrounding it. But when you take Prino, Cordes, and Lacone and that blanket finish they had in Omaha at trials, that was just some tremendous stuff. And then you have the world record going into the 206s. This is an event that keeps elevating itself. Yeah. So 207 to make the team, probably. Yeah. You would have to think that. Will Lacone has to be ultra motivated for sure. But Josh Pernot, the consistency that he's shown the last 2 years just speaks volumes for his getting on the blocks and being able to perform time and time again.
Yeah, for sure.
I just like his. I don't know if stoicism is the word for it, but he just seems like he just goes out, he gets the job done, and isn't rattled really by anything. Not a lot of hoopla either, though. He just has this very even keel about him, which I appreciate.
A lot of the Cal guys are like that. Murphy's kind of the same way. They just they take care of business, and then they'll sit back and appreciate it a little bit later. Josh also has a great sense of humor and can really take anything in stride, and I think that helps in this kind of competition. So on the last show, we talked about the women. We asked you for a bold prediction. I know you have one, and I know it's in the men's 100 breaststroke.
Yeah, I don't know how bold it is because of how the amount of talent he has and what he's shown the last 2 years, especially when he went and trained a little bit down in Austin, or more than a little bit. But I think Andrew Wilson's going to make the U.S. team for the World Championships in the 100 breaststroke. Again, it's very difficult to evenly compare the college and short course swimming to what happens in the long course pool. But if you take a look at what Wilson's done, he's clearly improved himself as a breaststroker in the past year. And it's a guy who's already been a 59 and change, 59 low, I believe low. So he seems like he's done the work and he has the skill set to go 58 something. And that I would have a hard time believing that 58 something doesn't get him a spot.
Yeah, because you don't expect that both Cordes and Miller will be going their best times here. At least I wouldn't, just coming off an Olympics. But you're right, and that's very interesting to think about. But it's very legitimate that Andrew Wilson's going to be right up there in that 100 breaststroke. Going to be fun like the 200, and unlike trials where there were only two guys out in front, there could be more this time. So really the events we haven't covered, the men's butterfly. We mentioned Chase Kalish, but this is the terrain of Phelps, and the U.S. needs a butterflyer for the medley relay, and certainly some options in the 200 fly would be nice. If you're the U.S. right now, where are you putting your hopes?
Well, this is where Jack Conger has to come through. A guy again who, as a high schooler, and then all through his career at Texas, a lot of potential and has delivered a lot of superb performances, American records in the short course pool. Yep. Got his NCAA title before he was done as a Longhorn. An individual NCAA title to go with his multiple team titles, and a guy who got himself on the Olympic team last year, but not in either of the butterfly events where he was so strong going into trials. And the United States' depth is amazing, but this is where he now can step in to an opening left by Phelps. And Tom Shields will be there, obviously, especially in the 100. So yeah, Jack Conger has a real big chance right now to elevate his name.
Yeah, definitely a guy to watch. 200 free, 100, 200 fly. I think events that the U.S. is expecting quite a bit from Jack Conger. So, wait, so have we covered everything? Did we cover everything? Distance. Any thoughts on the distance events? Those are probably the weakest ones right now, but I think we covered everything else.
Yeah, that's where I would say the 400, 1500 is probably the shakiest ground. You don't know what a Connor Dwyer is going to do. Probably won't go up to a 400 free at this point. Or at least it doesn't seem to be that case. And then you have the recent revelation of Jordan Wolomotsky's not going to do pool swimming. He's going to focus on the open water. So that takes another guy out of the 1500. Something, maybe a True Sweetser or somebody can come in that spot. But again, just like we talked about on the women's show the other day, this is the chance for some new blood.
Yep, it is.
And we'll see where things unfold.
400, there's some more options with the Clark Smiths and the Townley Haasses and the Zane Grothies.
Yeah.
But when you get up to the 1500, it's time for someone. We saw Connor Yeager do the exact same thing a few years ago. Week event, comes in, makes it his own. Be interesting to see what happens this time around. John, thanks for doing this. Always a pleasure to chat swimming with you. It's going to be some fun racing in Indianapolis. Enjoy watching.
Thanks, David. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, of course. That's John Lone joining us to break down the men's events at U.S. Nationals. Always a pleasure to do this with John. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Enjoy our coverage of U.S. Nationals right here on swimmingworld.com, and we'll see you later.